The fort at Gwalior is one of the most beautiful and majestic in all of India. One doesn't know how many forts imitate it in style. If folklore is to be given credence, about 1500 years ago, a local ruler called Suraj Sen came out here on a hunt to the hilltop. He was very thirsty. Looking for water, he encountered a religious man performing penance. The religious man took pity on the hunter, hit the ground with his fist, and sweet water emerged. Not only did the water quench his thirst, when the king took a bath in it, he was cured of a chronic skin disease. The grateful king wanted to know if he could do something in return. The religious man said nothing. You could just shift his capital to this spot and build a fort and become a famous ruler. And this is the story how this fort was born. Since then, several dynasties have ruled here. The Pratihars, the Tomars, the Mughals, the Marathas. And for a short while, this place was under the sway of the British. All these diverse influences are encountered in this beautiful fort.
Gwalior Fort is 320 kilometers away from Delhi. Medieval historian Tajul Nasir has described it as a shining pearl in the garland of Indian forts. The fort is built on a rock and towers about 700 feet above the ground and is very large. Different building styles, from ancient to modern, are encountered here.
A fort is a sense of an imperial expression. It's like an electric charge being transmitted to a point which is a springboard to all kinds of activities. Gwalior is one of them. It's a trade route, it's an imperial route, it's a political route, it's a dynastic route, all that put together.
In the 10th century, Gwalior was part of the Kannauj Empire. After this, it remained under the Kachwahas. The Sultans of Delhi conquered it in the 12th and 13th centuries, but by the end of the 14th century, Tomar Rajputs had reclaimed it. Raja Man Singh Tomar was the most illustrious ruler of this dynasty. Later, the fort fell into the hands of the Marathas.
Gwalior is the major fort. It is the artery. It is the traditional route of the Mughal Empire, running all the way. It is Delhi, Agra, coming from Lahore, from the northwest frontier, Lahore, Delhi, Agra, and one goes straight, the Grand Trunk Road.
The geographical location of Gwalior rendered it invincible. Built at a height and protected by tall ramparts and large towers, it was difficult to conquer. The rulers of Gwalior never had to face an enemy stronger than them, and it was only after the rise of the Mughals that a strategic threat emerged.
The money and the resources come from the seas. There's so much of trade. Gujarat is an important, it's a rich area. And so, of course, are Bijapur, Golconda. So this Deccan route, Dholpur, Gwalior, then onwards to Asirgarh, Burhanpur, it is historically somehow for this region's control. It has always remained. That is why the Sindhiyas choose this as their own territory and seat. It has the largest sort of strong imperial continuity.
There are 6 gates that provide entry to the fort. The first gate facing the city is the Hindola pole, and reminds one of the decorated tornas of Jain temples. It is adorned with miniature towers and blue tiles. The gate in the front of the Man Mandir is Hathi pole, and despite delicate carvings on stone, the enormity of the gate creates the overall effect of strength.
ग्वालियर की स्थिति उत्तर से दक्षिण और पूर्व से पश्चिम के जो प्राचीन मार्ग थे उस पर स्थित था, और इसीलिए भारतवर्ष का कोई भी शासक रहा है उसको ग्वालियर के दुर्ग हमेशा आकर्षित करता रहा है।
Of all the palaces built in this fort, Man Mandir is the most beautiful. It is said that the facade was once covered with white plaster and the towers on it were clad in shining copper. The front wall is 100 meters long and 30 meters high. The towers and carnelians on the top of the wall are decorated with blue tiles.
It's an important fort in the development of fort complexes in general in India, because even if you look at the Mughal fort complexes, they derive some notions of shifting axes, courtyards, and the use of different levels from the Gwalior Fort. Babur is recorded to have seen it and been favorably impressed by it. And a lot of, I think, Akbar's experiments in fortress building, one can see some connections between the Gwalior Fort and those developments later.
Man Mandir is an excellent specimen of Hindu palace architecture. When we cross the main gate and enter it, we are on the 6th floor. The other 5 levels are below this. First of all, we enter a large open courtyard that was the venue of ceremonies and public functions. Each hall is decorated in a different style. Some have abstract designs, and others display large statues of animals. Delicately cut out stone screens adorn these palaces. Agra and Fatehpur Sikri followed this style of construction.
राजा मान सिंह तोमर का जो शासन था वो ग्वालियर के इतिहास का स्वर्ण युग कहा जा सकता है। उस युग में व्यापार की ही समृद्धि नहीं हुई, बल्कि शिल्प, कला, वास्तुशास्त्र, शिल्प शास्त्र, संगीत, सभी विधाओं का, ललित कलाओं की विधाओं का वह एक उत्कर्ष काल था, और उसी काल को हम ग्वालियर का भी स्वर्ण काल कह सकते हैं।
The large pavilion-like halls of Man Mandir have their doors and pillars decorated with beautifully carved statues. A large library was housed here, and this also served as an auditorium where connoisseurs could enjoy music recitals. Everywhere, one encounters the aesthetic sensibility of the multifaceted man who built this. It was here that the Dhrupad style of classical music was born.
ग्वालियर फोर्ट ध्रुपद गायकी के लिए मशहूर था और वहाँ पर एक रीजनल ट्रेडिशन था जिसको क्लासिसाइज किया और इसमें जो बड़े बड़े नायक जो सुपर म्यूजिशियंस थे, नायक बख्शू है, नायक कर्ण है, नायक लोहंग है, बहुत सारे नायक थे जिन्होंने इस ध्रुपद को संवारा, उसका रूप संवारा और इसका कल्मिनेशन जो है वो आगरा में हुआ।
These apartments, where kings and queens once dwelt, have lost their luster. It can only be imagined how beautifully decorated they must have been in times gone by. These rooms were converted into a jail during the Mughal period, and this palace served as a dreaded dungeon for countless Mughal princes.
Dara Shuko's older son is the son-in-law of Aurangzeb, grand imperial prince who would have been emperor. Aurangzeb immediately banishes all of them. I mean, instead of killing them, this is the punishment. Murad, his brother who brings him to the throne. Gwalior is a sad fort. It's a kind of a burial ground, living burial ground.
The old image of this majestic fort faded slowly, and it came to be recognized as an imperial prison.
सिखों के गुरु हरगोविंद साहब को भी यहाँ 12 साल लगभग कैद करके रखा गया था। तो इस प्रकार यह ग्वालियर का किला सिखों के लिए एक तीर्थ स्थल के रूप में आज जाना जाता है।
तल पंचन गुर सूरमा
Legend has it that once, when Jahangir was seriously ill and the physicians had given up all hope, Noor Jahan went to soothsayers who advised her that the emperor would recover if the Guru was released. The Guru refused to move out of the jailhouse unless his fellow prisoners too were freed. In the end, all those who held his flowing cape were liberated.
The fort at Gwalior and the palaces built within are an integral part of the history of Indian classical music. The most famous ruler of this city, Maharaja Man Singh, was not only a brave warrior and an efficient administrator, he was a great lover of music and a generous patron. In his time started a process that became famous, what we know now today as the Gwalior School of Music or the Gwalior Gharana. Be it Dhrupad or Khayal Gaiki or playing of Sarod, the Gwalior style has carved a special niche for itself in the story of Indian music. The most famous of Indian musicians, Mian Tansen, first became famous in this city, and he was invited by the Grand Mughal Akbar to his court and appointed one of the 9 gems. The Mazar of Mian Tansen can be seen in the city, nestling under the shadow of another mausoleum of his mentor, the great Sufi saint Muhammad Ghaus.
Muhammad Ghaus, associated with the Chishtiya order, was a revered Sufi saint of his time. His mausoleum is built in the middle of a garden. This monument is decorated with very delicately carved stone screens that have a variety of designs. Devout followers continue to throng this place to offer up their petitions. Muhammad Ghaus was the mentor of Mian Tansen, the legendary musician. His small grave is also in the same compound. The grandeur of this mausoleum seems to echo the alap of the Dhrupad style of singing of the Gwalior school.
Dhrupad was a music of grandeur in which the voice abstracts itself so beautifully and so grandly. And if you look at the architecture of the Gwalior Fort, you'll find that there is some kind of, akinness, the same kind of grandeur, the same kind of abstraction that takes place in grandeur itself.
Gwalior was a prosperous state in the time of Man Singh Tomar and an important halting stage on the trade route from north to south. Developments in architecture and fine arts in Gwalior influenced entire northern India.
One of the most fascinating romantic tales associated with the fort of Gwalior is that of Maharaja Man Singh and Gujari Rani, the same beautiful young person who was also called Mrignayani because she was doe-eyed. Legend has it that once when the Maharaja was out on a hunt, he encountered a tribal beauty and decided to marry her. He did marry her and brought her home, but his other queens were quite unprepared to treat this tribal woman as an equal, and the Maharaja was constrained to build for his favorite wife a new palace a little away from the main palace complex. This is known as the Gujari Mahal, and today a rich museum functions there.
The collection of statues and other artifacts in Gujari Mahal provide interesting details about the history of Malwa. There are Buddhist, Hindu and Jain statues as well as material objects used in public buildings that reflect a diversity of styles. The prosperity of Gwalior during this period attracted artists and scholars from all over the land.
Love and war are the two big motives of all folk traditions, and forts have been invariably associated, both of them. There is this Gwalior, you have Gujari, and she turns out to be a great musician, so a rag is created which is assigned to her, known as Gujari Todi, and she lives there. And who remembers who were the queens of Raja Man Singh, whoever the king was? But everybody knows that Gujari Mahal, and there's where Gujari.
The Mughal influence is clearly discerned in the architectural style of Jahangir Mahal and Shah Jahan Mahal. It is believed that these palaces were built and named after the rulers of Gwalior accepted Mansabdari ranks in the Delhi court. What is popularly known as the Saas Bahu Ka Mandir is in fact a complex of two temples, originally called Sahastra Bahu Temple. According to historians, this is one of the oldest structures in the fort and was built by the Kachwaha ruler Raja Mahipal in the 11th century. The large circular ceiling rests on beautifully carved pillars. The ceiling itself is decorated with delicately carved stone statues of Hindu gods and goddesses, yakshas and gandharvas. The larger temple is identified as the Sas temple and the smaller one as the Bahu temple. The legend about the Telika temple tells us that it was built by a rich oil miller. However, the original name of this shrine was Telang temple. It has a 35-meter tall shikhar and shows a harmonious blend of North and South Indian building styles.
यह एक प्रकार से संगम स्थल रहा चारों दिशाओं का। यह मंदिरों का जो शिल्प है या दुर्ग का वास्तु निर्माण शिल्प है, उसमें हम भारत के सभी प्रमुख शिल्पों का एक सम्मिश्रण पाते हैं। यहाँ दक्षिण शैली का तेलंगाना शिल्प के मंदिर भी मिलते हैं, गुजरात के गुर्जर प्रत्याहार शैली का भी शिल्प मिलता है, उत्तर भारत के नागर शैली का भी शिल्प मिलता है। तो सांस्कृतिक दृष्टि से कहें या हेरिटेज की दृष्टि से कहें तो यह एक बहुत सुंदर उदाहरण है।
As the climb to the fort starts, one can see gigantic statues of Jain Tirthankars. Carved in rock, some are almost 60 meters tall. It is believed that these were commissioned in the 15th century by a queen who was a devout Jain. What is beyond doubt is the fact that Jainism had reached here hundreds of years ago and many prosperous Jain traders had settled here. It couldn't have been easy to build these statues. It is a matter of great satisfaction that the work of repairing and maintaining these on a large scale is underway. This kind of conservation work isn't easy. Nor can it be done by an individual. The challenge of preserving this legacy is immense.